Have you ever felt overwhelmed or confused? Like life is suddenly pushing back at you from every direction? Those seasons can feel heavy and disorienting. But what if there's more happening than what we can see with our natural eyes? Spiritual attacks are real, and learning to recognize them changes everything about how you respond and stand strong in faith. In this video, I will talk about 8 signs you're in spiritual warfare and how to win, and what God's word says about overcoming them in his power. Because the truth is, you're not just dealing with physical situations. You're facing a hidden battle that most people never even realize is happening. And that's exactly how the enemy wants it. Because if he can keep you unaware, he can keep you defeated. But the moment you begin to see clearly, everything changes. One of the first signs you're in spiritual warfare is unusual confusion, where your mind feels crowded, your thoughts feel scattered, and decisions that used to be simple suddenly feel overwhelming. And this is not random, because 1 Corinthians 14 verse 33 says God is not the author of confusion, which means when confusion increases, something else is influencing your mind. And the way you win is by grounding yourself in truth, speaking God's word over your thoughts, and refusing to let confusion control your actions. Another powerful sign is increased temptation, especially in areas you thought you had already overcome. And it often comes suddenly and intensely, catching you off guard. But this is a strategy, because 1 Peter 5 verse 8 says, "Be sober, be vigilant," because your adversary, the devil, walks about like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. So when temptation rises, it's not the time to rely on your strength. It's the time to draw closer to God. Because Galatians 5 verse 16 says, "When you walk in the Spirit, you will not fulfill the desires of the flesh." Then there's resistance when it comes to anything spiritual, where you suddenly feel tired when it's time to pray, distracted when it's time to read the word, or unmotivated when it's time to grow. And this is one of the most hidden signs of spiritual warfare, because it feels natural, but it's not. It's opposition, because the enemy knows that your consistency with God is what weakens his influence. And that's why even Daniel experienced delays and resistance while praying in Daniel 10 verses 12 to 13. Yet heaven was already working on his behalf. So your persistence matters more than you realize. Another shocking sign is isolation, where you begin to withdraw from people who strengthen your faith. You feel alone, misunderstood, or disconnected, and slowly you start fighting battles by yourself, which is exactly where the enemy wants you, because Ecclesiastes 4 verse 12 says, "Though one may be overpowered by another, 2 can withstand him, and a threefold cord is not quickly broken," whereas isolation makes you easier to attack. So winning means staying connected even when you don't feel like it. Then there's constant discouragement, where nothing feels good enough, hope feels distant, and you start questioning your purpose. And this is dangerous, because discouragement weakens your faith. But Joshua 1 verse 9 says, "Have I not commanded you? Be strong and of good courage. Do not be afraid, nor be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go." Which means your feelings don't change God's presence. Another sign is repeated setbacks, where you keep facing obstacles right when you're making progress, and it feels like something is pushing against you. But this is often confirmation that you're moving in the right direction, because the enemy doesn't fight what is a threat. And Romans 8 verse 28 reminds you that God is working all things together for your good, even when it looks like things are falling apart. Then there are sudden negative thoughts that feel intrusive and persistent, thoughts of fear, doubt, or failure that don't align with who you are. And this is why 2 Corinthians 10 verse 5 says, "Casting down arguments and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, bringing every thought into captivity to the obedience of Christ." I want you to understand this. Not every thought comes from you, and you have authority to reject what doesn't align with God's truth. Finally, one of the deepest signs is spiritual dryness, where you feel distant from God even though you're seeking him, and it feels like your prayers are hitting a wall. But this is often a test of faith, not a sign of failure, because James 1 verse 12 says, "Those who persevere under trial will receive the crown of life," which means your endurance is producing something greater than what you can see. So, how do you win in spiritual warfare? You win by staying alert, by feeding your spirit daily with God's word, by praying even when you don't feel like it, by rejecting lies and standing on truth, by surrounding yourself with the right people, and by remembering that this battle is not for victory, but from victory. Because Colossians 2 verse 15 say, "Having disarmed principalities and powers, he made a public spectacle of them, triumphing over them in it," which means you're not fighting to win, you're fighting from a place of victory. And the moment you start thinking like that, the enemy begins to lose his hold on your life. So don't back down, don't stay silent, and don't stay unaware, because once you recognize the battle, you also unlock the power to overcome it.